Essentially, a precondition is something that lives inside of one person in the relationship that has to be addressed first before the dynamics can be healthy. An example would be if one partner is involved in an outside affair, their attachment needs are being met outside of the relationship. That's a precondition. That can't be happening. I mean, this inside out approach won't work if we don't have any leverage, right? A precondition is something that gives us no leverage, even in the inside out. So it would be an affair, it would be an abusive partner. So not just somebody who will occasionally, in a very traumatized, dysregulated way, react with a verbally abusive comment once in a blue moon or, lose their temper and throw something across the room. That could be considered abusive, right? I'm not talking about things like that one off, even though that's still abusive behavior. I'm talking about a pattern of abuse, like power and control, cycle of violence, walking on eggshells, building tension, outburst, and then the honeymoon phase all over again. A pattern of coercion, control of access, control of money, all that stuff. Another thing would be an acute untreated mental health condition. So if one or both of you, like if you're with a spouse who has, I use the example of bipolar 1 and they're having manic episodes. Well, if they're not medicated and they're not being treated and they're actively, acutely manic, you're not going to be able to have a healthy relationship with that person. It doesn't matter if you're perfect. It doesn't matter if you're showing up with all the perfect tools, you're emotionally regulated, you know your vision, you do all the things. It probably won't work because they have a precondition. The other thing is an untreated acute addiction. That can include porn addiction, gambling addiction, screen addictions, video game addiction, anything at all that is something that will get in the way of healthy attachment needs, right? Something that I know that this is bad for my life. I know this is bad for my parenting. I know this is bad for my family. This is bad for my relationship, and I can't stop. And if they're not willing to get help, alcoholism is a really big thing. What if they recognize they're an alcoholic and they're in meetings? Great. Well, that's not a precondition. They're sober and they're in recovery and they are getting help for it. Great. But if I talk to somebody and they say, my spouse is an alcoholic, but they don't think they are and they're not going to get help, then it's a codependency issue of like you can't make somebody quit drinking. If it is problematic for you, then you really have to work on your own boundaries. But again, it's a situation where you could be perfect and it won't make a difference, right? Because you're up against something that is a significant barrier. Narcissistic personality disorder is also a precondition of this is the other thing, a personality disorder